Our fact for this episode: yes, there is a highly effective solution out there for cleaning and odour control that also completely eliminates the need for harmful chemicals. So let's get into how. Welcome back, everyone, to the Corporate Sustainability Education channel. We're powered by the Southern Sustainability Partnership. Today, we are joined by Mark Powell, Managing Director of the North London-based company Ozone Clean. Now, the company was set up in 2005 to manufacture and market a range of odour destruction products suitable for use in hospitality and medical facilities. But I'm sure once you listen to this interview, you'll find not exclusively to those areas. Since its inception, the company Ozone Clean has developed the concept of using ozone in rooms and larger areas, and has produced and sourced a range of products suitable for a wide variety of businesses and applications. Their solution, therefore, is now widely used and often across the leisure hospitality marketplace, in care homes and by the NHS. Here we'd like to talk through a case study in the hospitality sector in particular, to give our channel members an insight into what the company does. Mark, welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Hi, Linda. Thanks for having me today.
You're welcome. Mark, before we introduce the case study, your company uses ozone to clean and to eliminate odour. So can you explain exactly what ozone is and why it's so effective in these areas?
Sure. Well, ozone is essentially oxygen. It's 3 oxygen atoms that is generally created during a thunderstorm. It is also naturally created by the UV lights from the sun's rays, but the main aspect of ozone, where it can be controlled, is the fact that it is produced during a thunderstorm. What happens in a thunderstorm is the electrical current split normal oxygen content of the air, which, as we all know, is O2, 2 oxygen atoms, and the magnetic properties of a thunderstorm reattach a 3rd atom onto the bog standard O2 molecule, creating an ozone molecule, which is O3, 3 oxygen atoms. As we go back to our basic chemistry, we know that oxygen's basic function is to oxidize something, which is essentially a destroying, kind of burning or removal kind of process. So 3 oxygen atoms is obviously going to be 3 times more powerful than a single oxygen atom. So it's basically nature's most powerful oxidizing molecule that you can get. And that is why, maybe not in a city centre, but especially if you're out in the country, during and after a thunderstorm, it smells very fresh afterwards. That's because it's essentially nature's deodorizer.
Wow, that's a really interesting way to explain ozone. So yeah, that was fascinating, Mark. Thank you. Ozone Clean as a company, you've got a motto: be a part of the solution, not part of the pollution. So can you tell us about the place this solution in your mind has in an organisation's sustainability strategy?
Sure. Well, I think it fits perfectly well into sustainability, as well as the concept of the circular economy as well. Essentially, traditional methods of removing odours for probably the last century have been using high chemical air fresheners. And if the odour issue is extremely bad, they would have to get a company in to deep clean the area or the environment by using a process of shampooing, steam cleaning, for example. Both methods, whether it be the air freshener or a deep clean, obviously would have a high cost attached to them over the course of time, but more importantly, very, very high chemical and energy consumption. These have been the normal methods of removing odours. As you know, as we're all becoming more and more aware, is that air freshener doesn't actually tackle the source of the problem. You're basically flooding the area with extra molecules that overpower the original odour molecules to create a semi-fresh environment. But as we also know, the air freshener will eventually die away and the smell will return. So we developed a concept, understanding that ozone is nature's deodorizer, to manufacture machines that can essentially mimic a mini thunderstorm inside the machine. As ozone is natural, it's only oxygen, The only energy consumption when you use an ozone machine to eradicate an odor issue is the electricity that's used to power the machine, which is less than a 12-watt light bulb. So every time an ozone machine is used, instead of the above methods of air freshener and deep cleaning, there is a huge reduction in energy and chemical consumption.
Let's get into the case study then, Mark. Now, can you tell us a little bit about the type of customer in terms of the industry sector and maybe the size of the company?
Okay, essentially, it's so wide-reaching. It's any organisation or even an individual that has any kind of odour issues. Essentially, hospitality probably are our main customer base, purely because they can see an immediate return on their investment by turning around a bedroom or an area that they would lose normally to a smell issue within 15 minutes, half an hour. But like I said, it's essentially that anybody that has smell issues, from an individual that might smoke in their house or have pets, dogs, cats that go outside, to a 1,000 bedroom hotel that have people still smoking in them. Because I think one of the issues was back in 2009, there was the smoking ban, which led to, I would say, 98% of hotels removing all of their smoking bedrooms and turning them into non-smoking bedrooms. Essentially, all the smoking ban did was stop the peripheral smoker, the smoker that would enjoy maybe 1 or 2 cigarettes a day with a drink or with a meal, and that would stop them smoking it. But if they were a proper smoker, they would try and find ways around the smoking ban, and essentially they would still be smoking in a non-smoking room. Now, legally, as it's a non-smoking room, the hotel will be obliged to bring that bedroom back into an environment that doesn't have any of the harmful hydrocarbons of cigarette smoke in the room. So, like I said, hospitality, hotels, definitely, because they can see an automatic return on their investment. But essentially, Linda, it's anybody or any organisation that has debilitating aspects of their environment or business due to an odour issue.
I do remember when the smoking ban first came out, actually, I was on business and in a hotel waiting to check out. And somebody who was clearly a hardened smoker did say, if you non-smokers like fresh air so much, why don't you go outside? And that did tickle me. I thought that, well, yeah, well, okay, maybe they've got a point. So you've had a call from a customer or from a new company that's got a problem. Is there anything that they need to do to prepare before you arrive on site?
Yeah, and that's provide me with a smelly environment to tackle. Simple as that, nothing else. No PPE, no closing down of areas, no sectioning off of areas. Just give me an environment that has a smell, whether it be cigarettes, damp, food, vomit, whatever it might be. It's always an interesting topic of conversation that I have with my clients about what their issues are. But essentially, give me a room that has a smell, and I'll take my machine along, put it on, and demonstrate how it works.
Okay, so could you talk us through the process then, from literally arriving on site, what you do, to then leaving, just to give us an idea of your working day and what you do when you get there?
Sure. Well, essentially, going back to one of the aspects of our business, as one of the main manufacturers and suppliers of ozone, even though we obviously do sell machines, we like to label ourselves as a consultancy kind of business. So we place a lot of emphasis on actually describing the concept and helping our customers understand what they're using, why they're using it, how they're using it, the potential health benefits of using it. So, for them to use an ozone machine, essentially what we would do is we'd always go and offer a free demonstration, obviously what we're talking about now, but there is also the scope with somebody that was a bit more familiar with ozone to maybe embark on a 1 month or a 1 week trial of the machine, and they could use it that way. But essentially, if I was going to demonstrate the machine, I would obviously park up, and take my machine in. They would, for the sake of optimization of their time, because especially when you're dealing with hospitality, these guys are so busy. They need everything done yesterday, And unfortunately for them, they don't have the luxury that I might have of sectioning out an hour or half an hour like I am now for a meeting or an interview. They've got their extra work to do, and all it's doing is putting them back. So I like to try and be time consistent with them, and make time of the essence. So essentially speaking, I'll go there, I'll say, show me to your room, we'll put the machine on. As the cycle generally takes between probably 15 minutes and half an hour, we'll put the machine on, switch it on. I'll show them how to use it very quickly. It's very, very simple. And then we'll go off and, depending on obviously how busy they are, have a cup of tea, and I'll take them through the concept of the machine and the concept of how ozone works while the cycle is on. Normally takes about 15, 20 minutes. Once that's done, then we go back to the room, and it's, you know, I'd say literally 999 times out of 1,000, it's an absolute pleasure to see the, you know, the shock and the astonishment on their face to see that issue gone.
That must be a really nice feeling, actually, happy customer. So you come in, you do the job, they can clearly tell that there's been a result, and you leave. Is there any follow-up required, or is that as good as, you know, is that as much as is required in that particular moment?
Well, yeah, but also going back to the original demonstration, you know, we've had situations where not all the time will an establishment have an issue on the day of the demonstration. So we've had sometimes 8 people, you know, smoking in a room, and we'll be faced with that challenge. So for me, it'll be very important to make sure that once the odor was eliminated, the whole concept of ozone, as it's an oxidizer, as the ozone molecule actually oxidizes the molecule that's making the smell. Let's take, for example, cigarettes, because it's very, very easy, and it's a very common complaint of hotels that people are smoking in the room. The smell of a cigarette are called hydrocarbons, which are obviously molecules. To get rid of the smell, you obviously need to get rid of the molecules making the smell. I really do apologize if I'm stating the obvious here, but it's important to try and simplify it. So as you know, you've now got a room filled with, you know, millions of hydrocarbons from cigarettes, and then the alternative to flood the room with air freshener, you've now got millions of chemical molecules in the room that mask the hydrocarbons of the cigarettes. How ozone works is you put the machine on, the machine will produce a load of ozone, millions of ozone molecules that will naturally attach themselves to the molecules making the smell and basically oxidize them. So you're actually attacking the source of the problem. So I know I'm going about this in a kind of like in a circle here, but yes, it's wonderful to go into a room that's been smoked in, had somebody been sick in there, or food, treat the room, and to see the astonishment of the client's face when the smell is gone. But the most important aspect of it is that it's permanent. It's a permanent treatment. The smell isn't going to come back like air freshener will. Because, you know, in my opinion, it just defeats the whole object of deodorization. It doesn't even clarify the term deodorization. So, yeah, a follow-up call or even a follow-up meeting is essential, just to make sure that the day after or 8 hours later or whatever it might be, just to make sure that the smell hasn't returned. And that follow-up call is even more interesting, and the customer is even more flabbergasted in the fact, you know, how does this work, you know? And it's great to see the initial shock that the smell has gone, but also the follow-up when you find out the smell hasn't returned.
So if an organisation that you work with as a customer, you know, I'm thinking, how on earth did they tackle this problem beforehand? And I guess, like you say, really, it's just something that masks the problem only. So for you, your customers previously just used to try to hide it with something, and then obviously it would come back. Were there any other ways that they were doing it, or it was literally just that was open to them?
Okay, so the air freshener is a quick fix. As you know, you walk in, spray it around, and the smell's gone. You can sell that room, and then maybe in the middle of the night, the smell will come back. The better alternative, but not when it comes to sustainability and energy and chemical consumption, will be to deep clean the room. And that, like I said, would involve carpet shampooing, steam cleaning curtains, steam cleaning the mattresses, etc. Again, with a very, very, very high chemical and energy consumption. But, you know, let's be honest, more importantly to the hotel, it means that they would lose that room if it's deep cleaned for at least 24 hours. which takes out the revenue stream. Plus, you're looking on average of probably about 100 to 150 pounds per room to deep clean. And that now moves us on to the customers, using ozone as a very, very rapid return on their investment. As I said at the beginning, they can see the huge economic impact of using an ozone machine, having the smell permanently eradicated in a 15-minute, half an hour process, with the alternative only being spraying with air freshener, unhealthy, doesn't work, smell comes back, or deep clean the room, expensive, out of action for 24 hours.
Yeah, and I have had experience of actually doing exactly what you're saying there. It did not, in the in the very short term, it got rid of the odor. In the medium to long term, it didn't. It just kept reoccurring. And if you had a hot day or something, it was worse. So it didn't work in my experience. So Mark, is this in general a reactive service? You get called when there's an issue, or, do you have customers that you have regular contracts with? They'll have you in every so many months, or, how does it work usually?
Well, both, essentially. Me as a person, one of my kind of concept with business is, like it should be with everybody, is the customer's always right. So we don't really have like a set routine of how we supply ozone equipment. We try and meet the customer's requirements, try and meet the customer's needs. So, for example, I wouldn't want to sell an ozone machine to a customer that has an issue once a year. They wouldn't get a high return on their investment. So yes, in that situation, then they would maybe call us in, we'll send one of our operatives down and treat the area for them in the space of half an hour, or depending on the size of is it a classroom, a dining area, a conference area, maybe 1 to 2 hours. But essentially speaking, we're very honest with our customers, because what they're doing, it's not highly cost effective to do that, because essentially speaking, they're paying for our operatives' time. So for them, I would always, if they're having regular issues, I would always counsel them to have a machine on site, number one. And number two, if it was more of an ad hoc procedure for them, then I would probably recommend them to take a short-term rental from us. But essentially the answer is whatever the customer wants and whatever the customer needs, and we would advise accordingly. An ongoing issue, then for just a number of reasons, efficiency, return on investment, customer satisfaction, it'd probably be recommended to have a machine on site so they can use it as and when an unexpected issue occurs.
Yeah, it's clear, Mark, that you've demonstrated a great amount of flexibility. Not, there isn't a one size fits all. So really any customer with any of their issues, you can deliver the service that best suits them. So if we move away just then from the hospitality sector, can you sort of elaborate just a few of the typical issues that you tackle in any given year, really?
Sure. Well, you've got the traditional culprits of odour issues: smoke. And under smoke comes a lot of other subsets, which I'm sure we can use our imagination and become a tremendous strain on especially hospitality. But obviously, I'm not trying to point fingers at anybody, but in the city hotels that have, in the olden days and hopefully in the days to come, stag do's, hen do's, big parties, there'll obviously be, maybe vomit issues in a room, which was an absolute horrendous nightmare for the resident of the hotel, but also for the hotel to clean up. So we've got smoke and vomit, but also one odor issue that it's very, very common, but it's not really up there with the traditional culprits, and that is damp. Even damp can enter wall spaces, the brickwork. If you've left your tap on for too long and it overflows, your bath overflows, or even if you're having a shower and the shower curtain, we all know this, the shower curtain doesn't stick inside the bath or whatever it might be. The water or the liquid can get into the carpets, to get under the linoleum. And what happens is that the water or the liquid reacts with the chemicals in the glue or in the carpets and creates mildew and fungus spores that become airborne. And they can be actually quite harmful for you to breathe in, but also they can create quite a nasty smell. And the same way that as I explained how ozone oxidizes the organic compounds such as a hydrocarbon or, for example, a vomit bacteria into normal oxygen, it will also tackle damp and mildew and fungus spores as well. So that's also a big use for ozone. But like I said, there's a very famous saying, one man's meat is another man's poison, I think, if I coin the phrase correctly. So, somebody stays in a hotel and they've had, they sprayed lots of perfume or some wonderful aftershave. The next customer might not like that perfume or aftershave. That smell needs to be removed. Food, again, food is a big point to me, because once food has been cooked, it smells wonderful. But give it 24 hours, the smell turns, whatever it is, even if it's the most fabulous cordon bleu, 5-star cooking, that those food molecules become stale and they become a really, really bad odor. So that's another use for ozone. So I'd say the top 5 are probably smoke, vomit, damp, paint, and food smells. But really and truly, ozone doesn't have a brain. It doesn't decide, I'm only going to work for this kind of smell or that kind of smell. We've compiled a list, an Excel spreadsheet of organic compounds that I've never heard of, and I probably will never hear of things that ozone will eradicate. So it's a very, very wide-ranging generic use of getting rid of organic compounds that make odors.
Yes, I think, we've looking at the hospitality sector and quite, rightly saying that, they can't have any downtime. I mean, this is a 24/7 operation. If we now look at the NHS, for example, which is another one of your customer base, another 24/7 operation. I mean, they cannot afford to have any of their areas out of action. So to have this, process that they can call on and have that taken care of so speedily must be absolutely invaluable to them. About the range of equipment that you have then, and the type of price point that people can expect. You don't have to be specific, but, around that area.
Of course, but if you don't mind, I'd just like to go back to your original point of speed in hospitality and example, medical facilities. You're absolutely right there. People nowadays need things done yesterday, and especially the way hospitals are at the moment, even not during the pandemic, they would chock-a-block up to full capacity. Most hotels are running at between 95 and 100% occupancy in the city centre. They can't just move people around, and like I said, they need things done straight away. When you're using an ozone machine, one of the main things that will speed up a treatment of ozone is the fact that a lot of ozone machines won't actually remove the ozone during the cycle. So to really create a very, very fast treatment of ozone, you'll be looking at a machine that produces a lot of ozone, but also that can remove the ozone in the same cycle, which would basically mean that the area that you've treated is available for use immediately afterwards, rather than having to leave the room to ventilate and air out the ozone itself, which basically speeds up a 5-6 process, into 50 minutes, half an hour.
Yeah. Okay. So do you have one machine that covers all of this, the processes that you need it to, or do you have more than one range for people to choose from?
As you've correctly pointed out, there are a lot of variables when it comes to odor control. Is it 1 cigarette? Is it 20 cigarettes they've smoked? Have they had a party with food, or is it just one person having a takeaway? So what's the size of the area that needs to be treated? So there are a lot of variables. There's not one size fits all, as you correctly mentioned beforehand. So we developed a range of equipment that we believe will suitably fit into any form of odor control application that an organization might need. And we very quickly realized that not necessarily all organizations will need a machine such as, we coin the phrase, an odor destroyer, where you would put it in, switch it on, blast the room full of ozone. The ozone does its work, takes away the ozone, and then you go back into the room and it smells very fresh and healthy and nice, and the smell's gone. Some environments need what we like to describe as an odor maintainer. Okay, like for example, a restaurant or a pub, or somebody that has, a continuous, a footfall of guests coming in and out of their premises. So we basically split our range of equipment into two parts, and that is odor maintainers and odor destroyers. The odor maintainers are more of a permanent treatment that will supply a controlled amount, a small controlled amount of ozone that's basically slightly more than what we're breathing in day to day. It's perfectly safe to be around, such as, for example, we've got like a little plug-in that you just plug and play. We've got a wall-mounted unit that you can hardwire into your public toilets or your corridors that has day-part timers on it. And like I said, they're producing a very small controlled amount of ozone that will maintain a very fresh, healthy, odor-free. And I say odor-free because technically speaking, that's what deodorization is. It's not, you're not replacing one bad odor with roses and lavender. That's not deodorization. Deodorization is having it odor-free. So having these maintainers will create an odor-free and maintain an odor-free environment. Whereas our odor destroyers are more industrial. You would put them in an area, switch them on, 15 minutes, half an hour, leave the area, come back and it's gone.
Yeah, I'm sure our channel members can think of so many different applications as well when you start to really think about this. I mean, I'm thinking now of a lot of issues that they might have in schools, then there are offices. I know from my own point of view, one of my bugbears is to walk outside, you know, into the stairwells of a local authority parking lot or something, and the smells in those can be quite horrible. So I think, you know, I think it's endless, the sort of, you know, uses that this would have. And I hope that there's going to be many more coming your way after listening to this. So lastly, Mark, what I wanted to ask you was, do you ever record any data for customers on just how much ozone saves them on their cleaning costs compared to the more traditional ways they have to deal with this?
Yeah, we try and do that most of the time because obviously, you know, it's really important for us to understand how quickly a customer is achieving their return on their investment. The fact is that, you know, in my opinion, these machines should be used even without a return on their investment, because at the end of the day, using an ozone machine negates a huge amount of energy and chemical consumptions. It's probably one of the only products or uses on the market that's actually more cost effective and it's more efficient than the chemical counterpart. Normally, when you're buying chemicals, it's, you know, it's generally cheaper and obviously worse for the environment. So it's more cost effective and more efficient, and it's better for the environment, which for me is a reason alone to use an ozone machine. But as you know, times are hard since 2009. And people are looking on the more economic structure of getting a piece of capital expenditure. And we did a lot of research. We worked very closely with a lot of organizations to gauge what kind of return on investment they get and how quickly they achieve it. So for example, in a hotel, again, there are a number of variables about what costs they are reducing. For example, they are obviously reducing chemical air freshener costs. They're obviously reducing deep cleaning costs. But more importantly, they're reducing refund costs, which is a major issue to them, and customer satisfaction, which you can't add a cost to. But if you put all these things into the melting pot, just to give you some of the research that we've done with a very busy city centre 3-star hotel and a kind of smaller 40-bedroom 5-star boutique hotel, which we believe gives you the complete range of what a hotel might sort of face, especially in city centres. The 3-star hotel, I clear my throat for this, in 1 month saved £1,258. 5-star boutique saved £1,121 per month.
Yes, that's, well, you know, those figures have to be taken seriously, don't they? And also, you know, it's customer satisfaction, and also it is the, you know, reducing the impact on your organization, on the environment. So, yeah. Well, I think that's been a really invaluable insight into products and a solution that a lot of organizations may not even have considered or realized was out there for them, Mark. So I'm really pleased that we've been able to cover this today. A big thank you to Mark Powell, Managing Director of Ozone Clean in North London. We've included a link to Mark's website to the right of this video, so you can go along to the website and find out more about the solutions and the products that they provide. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.